Mtazamaji, sasa tuangazie makala ya afya, ambapo wiki hii kwenye kitengo cha afya bora tunaangazia ugonjwa wa homa ya rumatizimu almaarufu rheumatic fever kwa lugha ya Kimombo. Homa ya rumatizimu ni ugonjwa kuvimba unaoweza kuhusisha moyo, viungo vya mwili, ngozi na ubongo, na hujijenga majuma mawili hadi manne baada ya maambukizi ya koo. Daktari Charles Kuya kutoka Equity Afya mjini Bungoma anatueleza zaidi kuhusiana na ugonjwa huo.
The rheumatic fever is just an infection that mostly affect kids of age between the age of 5 to 15, but it's rarely to those ages below 3 years. And mostly it's caused by what we call beta hemolytic streptococcal infection that mostly affect the upper respiratory tract. So these are some of the signs and symptoms of these diseases. Are mostly normally say they are clinical signs. We normally get them during that time we are doing clinical examination and all those things. So most of them, that first of all we have what we call carditis. It is that affect mostly the heart. We have arthritis, mostly affects the large bones, that is the joints, big joints. We have what we call chorea. Chorea mostly affect the brain. And we have what we call erythema marginatum, what affect mostly you find a bump on the skin. At least mostly it is pale and it has a red center. And also we have what we call nodules, that's subcutaneous nodules. Also you can get nodules that are painless on the body. Other symptoms include, you find the patient having elevated temperature of more than 101 Fahrenheit, which is let me say roughly 38 degrees Celsius and above. You find some having issues with the pallor. Pallor is just basically you find a patient having reduced blood. Yeah, and some might find patient coming irritable and all that. So those are some of the signs and symptoms of these diseases. Okay, mostly risk factors is when you have, mostly you find that patients having mostly upper respiratory tract infection, and it's not treated on time. So most of these people, if they get upper respiratory tract infection, you find that having issues with that beta hemolytic, and then it affects the other parts of the body. So most of the time you find that we have we can do some tests, like maybe laboratory tests. Mostly we do laboratory tests. We look at we do what we call a SWOT test, or we do what we call anti-streptolysin or titer, that is ASO. We look at them. Most of them they are elevated. Secondly, you find we have increased white blood cells, that we call it leukocytosis. And also you might find that some of them having issues with the reduced blood, that is anemia, that is what we call it. That's the reason why I said of pallor. Then most of the time you find we have most of complications. Complications mostly might affect from head to toe. We talk of in the head, we call that is chorea, mostly affecting the basal ganglia of the brain. So if you want to know the patient is having issues with the chorea, you find a patient having deterioration in handwriting. Mostly the kids, you find the kid was having a good handwriting, but with time you have that deterioration in handwriting. That also can suggest issues with the chorea. Now we have issues with the heart issues, and that is the only the complication that might arise having consequences in future if a patient has issues with the carditis. So mostly of this time whenever you have antibodies that are affecting the heart, because the body develops antibodies against itself and start destroying its own cells. So if it affects the heart, you find now a patient might have issues with the valves, have endocarditis, maybe issues with the swelling of the inner lining of the heart, we call it endocarditis. You have what you call pericarditis, the layers between the lining the heart, and you have also the myocarditis, that is the inflammation of the muscle of the heart. So also we have what you call some might have issues with the arthritis, but mostly you find also we have to improve the hygiene of the children, and that will reduce chances of the patient developing rheumatic fever. Yes, thank you.
Maybe umesema watoto wa kike ndio mostly wako affected na hii rheumatic fever. Okay, reason being mbona si wao ndio wako mostly affected?
Okay, normally talk of nature, we cannot change. Mostly we talk of gender. That's why you find some diseases. Some will say that men are more affected than women. So we normally say just gender, and also we are talking of the immunity. Sometimes boys will find that the immunity is high and that. And also whenever you have that immunity, you find that sometimes whenever we have immunity that attacks, we find most of the ladies having that issue. But let me just talk of the gender. We cannot, something like that we cannot modify. We cannot explain much about that because it's something that is unmodifiable.